Hello. In this video, I'm going to explain how to answer the questions in the Edexcel GCSE Maths Paper 1 from what would have been in May 2020, the foundation tier. The purpose of this video is for your learning and understanding, not just the answers. There are, of course, other videos out there. Write the following numbers in order of size. Start with the smallest number. I like to write them out vertically first, making sure each place value is in line. The easiest way to do this is to make sure the decimal point lines up. Because the units are all zeros, I'm going to focus on the first decimal place. I have 3 3s and 1 4. 3 is smaller, so I'm focusing on this number, and this number. Now, instead of focusing on the first decimal place, I am going to focus on the second decimal place. I have 2, 5 and 0. 0 is the smallest, so my first number is 0.309. Cross it out, and then I'm left with 2 and 5. So I have 0.32. Again, cross it out. Out of the three numbers we were focusing on, the next number must be 0.35. Once that's crossed out, we can see the last number must be 0.4. Every single number must be in the correct place for that 1 mark. Here is a list of numbers. From the list, write down a multiple of 3. That means we need to write down a number that's in the 3 times tables. So if I list my 3 times tables, it goes on, and we can see that the only number in the 3 times tables is the 18. And you can just write 18 for 1 mark. Write 4.666 correct to the nearest whole number. In other words, to the nearest units. So I'm going to write my place value headings. I've got units, tenths, hundredths and thousandths. I'm rounding to the nearest units because it said to the nearest whole number. So I draw my wall here. I focus only on this 6. I can ignore the rest. Because this 6 is above 5, the answer is 5. We are not allowed to have any decimals with this answer, and it's just 5 for 1 mark. Write 3/4 as a decimal. This is one that you should already know, but if you do not, then you can use the bus stop method. 3 because it's the numerator goes inside, and 4 because it's the denominator goes outside. I'm going to write this as 3.0 to start with. 3 divided by 4 is 0. Make sure you have a decimal point, and the remainder is 3. 30 divided by 4 is 7, and there's a remainder of 2. So we need to add on an extra 0 and then write in the remainder. 20 divided by 4 is 5. So the answer is 0.75. For 1 mark, you can just write the answer. Again, it should be one that you already know. Write down the value of the 7 in the number 8,765. To start with, I always write down my place value headings. So I have thousands, hundreds, tens and units. We can see that the 7 is under the hundreds. So our answer is 700s. Or you can write it as 700 like this. You must include the digit 7 in your answer for that 1 mark. Geeta spins a fair 8-sided spinner. On the probability scale, mark with a cross the probability that the spinner will land on C. We can see that there's 1, 2, 3, 4 C's, so we have 4 over 8, which is the same as a half. So we need to put our X on the half, and that would be 1 mark. On the probability scale, mark with a cross the probability that the spinner will land on D. As we can see, there are no D's on the spinner, so there is no chance of landing on D, so we need to put a cross on the 0, and the cross alone would get us 1 mark. The incomplete pictogram shows information about the number of eggs sold from a farm shop on Monday. On Monday, the shop sold 18 eggs. On Tuesday, the shop sold 24 eggs. On Wednesday, the shop sold 27 eggs. Use this information to complete the pictogram and the key. We do not have the key, so that's the first thing we need to work out. We do know that 18 was sold on Monday. To help me work this out, I'm going to count out how many sections there are instead of seeing it as a full circle and a half circle. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 sections. Each section is actually a quarter of a circle. To work this out, I need to do 18 because all of them represent 18. And there were 6 of them, so divide it by 6, and I get 3. So each quarter section represents 3. That means that the full thing must be 3 multiplied by 4, which is 12. Now I have 1 mark. I can now draw in the key, and that equals 12. So there is my second mark. It says on Tuesday the shop sold 24 eggs. To get from 12 to 24, I need to do 12 multiplied by 2. That means I need to draw 2 full circles, and that would represent 24. Now I have a third mark. For Wednesday, 27 is not in the 12 times tables, so we can do 2 lots of 12 to get 24, but then we must add on another 3. So I can draw 2 full circles. Remember, 3 is what we had over here. So I need to draw on an extra quarter of a circle. And now I have my fourth mark. Before we start, it's good to note that a coordinate is written as x first and then y. For part A, write down the coordinates of point A. The x coordinate is over here, which is 2, and the y coordinate is over here, which is 3. So we would write 2, 3 in that order for 1 mark. Moving on, part B, write down the coordinates of point B. As we can see, we haven't gone across, we haven't gone left or right, so this coordinate will start with 0, but it has moved down, it's gone down by 1, so the y coordinate is -1. And again, it must be in that order for the 1 mark. Part C, on the grid, mark with a cross the point -2, 1, label this point C. If it's asking for -2 and then 1, it means we go to -2 on the x-axis and then to 1. So that point would be over here, and then we label it C, and that would get us 1 mark. A bag contains red counters and blue counters only. The number of red counters to the number of blue counters is 3 to 4. Write down the fraction of the counters that are red. So we have red, we have blue, and we can work out the total. We have 3 to 4 shares, which gives us a total of 7 shares. That means as a fraction, the denominator must be 7. And because we are only focusing on the red, we would use this 3 for our numerator. So the answer for 1 mark is 3 over 7. And we only need to write 3 over 7 for 1 mark. Write the ratio 12 to 30 in the form 1 to n. I'm first going to start by simplifying as much as I can. So I'm going to divide both sides by 6. And I get 2 to 5. Of course, this is not in the form they asked for. They asked for 1 to n. So now I need to divide the first number by 2, otherwise it will not be 1. So if I divide this one by 2, I must divide the 5 by 2. So now I have 1. 5 divided by 2, I'm going to use the bus stop method. I'm going to write 5.0 and then 2 on the outside. 5 divided by 2 is 2, remainder 1. Make sure you have the decimal point. 10 divided by 2 is 5. So the answer is 1 to 2.5. You must have a clear method and the answer for the 2 marks. Jenny has 12 marbles. A quarter of these 12 marbles are large. The rest of these 12 marbles are small. Each large marble has a weight of 70 grams. Each small marble has a weight of 50 grams. Work out the total weight of the 12 marbles. To start with, we need to work out how many large marbles there are. The question said a quarter of these 12 marbles are large, so we need to do 1/4 of 12. That means 12 divided by 4, and we get 3. We then also need to work out how many small marbles there are. Remember, it said the rest of these 12 marbles are small, so we will do 12 subtract 3, and we get 9. For working out the large marbles or the small marbles, we would get 1 mark. Step 2, we need to work out the total weight of the large marbles. So we need to do 3 multiplied by 70 grams, and that gets us 210 grams. We also need to work out the total weight of the small marbles. So that's 9 multiplied by 50 grams. We get 450 grams. For having the total weight of the large or the total weight of the small, we would get our second mark. The question says work out the total weight of the 12 marbles. So the total weight, we need to add up all of the large and all of the small. So 210 grams, add 450 grams, that's our third mark. And then 660 grams is our fourth mark. Reflect the shaded shape in the mirror line. I like to do these questions point by point. So if I start over here, this is 1, 2, 3 away from the mirror line. So go in the opposite direction, 3, 1, 2, 3. So now it's over here. Then go on to another point. I'm going to go onto this one. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. So now it's over here. Then I'm going to go to this top point. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Then I'm going to go over here, which is 1, 2, 1, 2. And finally, this green point is 1, 2, 3 away. So 1, 2, 3. Now we need to make sure we join it all up with a ruler. If you have the answer that I have on the screen, you would get 2 marks. If you have reflected it, but it's in the wrong place, so it's 1 to the left or 1 to the right or even 2 to the right, you would get 1 mark instead of 2. The diagram shows a number machine. Find the output when the input is 7. So we need to put in 7, multiply that by 2 to get us 14, and then subtract 3, and we end up with 11. If you just write 11, you would get the 1 mark. Part B, find the input when the output is 41. So we have some number, I'm going to call it x. We multiply it by 2, we subtract 3, and we end up with 41. To go backwards, we must do the inverse, so we need to add 3 and then divide by 2. If I write this out, I have 1 mark. For carrying out the calculation and getting the answer, I will get my second mark. So 41 add 3 is 44. 44 divided by 2 is 22. So with a clear method and a clear answer, I now have 2 marks. The diagram shows 2 points A and B on a map. Find the bearing of B from A. Because it said from A, we must start at A. Before we can measure anything, we must join the 2 points together with a straight line. Bearings are always angles, so we need to get out our protractor, we need to place it along the north line, and we need to measure clockwise. So place your protractor like this, and then measure in this direction. When we do that, the answer is 25 degrees. But remember, bearings must always be 3 digits, so we need to write 0 to 5 degrees for our 1 mark. Work out the real distance between A and B. Give your answer in kilometers. So we are working with the map distance and the real distance. For this, we need to use the scale they've given us. So we know that 1 centimeter on the map is equal to 25,000 centimeters in real life. We need to measure the distance from A to B. When we do that, we end up with 5 centimeters. For annotating it on the diagram or for writing it in our working out, we have 1 mark. To go from 1 to 5, we need to multiply by 5. Do the same on the other side. 25,000 multiplied by 5 is 125,000 centimeters. The question does say, give your answer in kilometers, so we need to convert units. First, I'm going to convert the centimeters into meters. 100 centimeters is equal to 1 meter. We are converting 125,000 centimeters. To go from 100 to 1, we need to divide by 100. I'm going to do the same over here. That gives us 1,250. Now we need to convert from meters into kilometers. 1,000 meters is equal to 1 kilometer. We need to convert 1,250 meters. To go from 1,000 to 1, we need to divide by 1,000. Do the same at the bottom. For having this complete method written out, we now have our second mark. Our answer is 1.25 kilometers, and that is our third mark. Ishmael asked 30 students at a college to tell him the sport they like the best from cricket, tennis, or swimming. 11 of the 20 female students said swimming. 2 of the male students said tennis. 5 students said cricket. The number of male students who said cricket was the same as the number of male students who said swimming. Complete the two-way table. To start with, we need to go to the first line of information, which is the 30 students that Ishmael asked. That has been filled in, so we can tick this off. Then it says 11 of the 20 female students said swimming, so we know 11 female students liked swimming, and there were 20 altogether, which has also been filled in. Now we can tick this off. 2 of the male students said tennis, so go to male students and tennis, and we can write in 2. Tick that off. Then it says 5 students said cricket. So go to cricket and total and we can write 5. Now we have 1 mark. We can work out how many male students there were altogether. We can do 30 subtract 20, which is 10. So this number here would be 10. Then it says the number of male students who said cricket was the same as the number of male students who said swimming. So if we do 10 subtract 2, we get 8. And then we need to do 8 divided by 2, and that gives us 4. So male cricket is 4, and male swimming is also 4. Now we have 2 marks. Then, to work out how many female students said cricket, we would do 5 subtract 4, and we get 1. To work out how many female students said tennis, we would do 20 subtract 11 subtract 1, which is 8. To work out how many said tennis altogether, we need to do 2 add 8, which is 10. And then to work out how many students said swimming altogether, we would do 4 add 11, which is 15. And for having a fully completed and correct two-way table, we would get 3 marks. Jamil makes a drink by mixing 1 part of orange squash with 9 parts of water. He uses 750 milliliters of orange squash. Jamil is going to put the drink he has mixed into 1 litre bottles. Work out the greatest number of 1 litre bottles that Jamil can completely fill. Step 1. We need to work out how much of this drink he is making in total. So we have orange squash, water, and total. We know it's 1 part to 9. That gives us 10 parts in total. We also know that Jamil is mixing 750 milliliters of orange squash. To go from 1 to 750, we need to multiply by 750. Do the same to the 10. We get 7,500 milliliters. That means Jamil is making 7,500 milliliters of this drink. We now have 1 mark. It does not matter how much water he is using. Step 2, we want to convert this into liters. So we have milliliters and we have liters. 1,000 milliliters is equal to 1 litre. We are converting 7,500. To go from 1,000 to 1, we need to divide by 1,000. Do the same over here. We end up with 7.5 litres. We now have our second mark. To work out the greatest number of bottles that Jamil can completely fill, we can definitely fill 1, 2, 3, all the way up to 7. Can he fill an 8th bottle? He can, but it will not be completely full. Therefore, our answer is 7 bottles. And for writing 7 bottles, we have our third mark. The table gives information about the number of points scored by each of 16 students in a game. Tina worked out the median of the number of points scored to be 5. Explain why it is not possible for the median to be 5. So we can write points goes up to 4. So 5 cannot be the middle value. Remember, median is always the middle number from an ordered list. Tina also worked out the total number of points scored by the 16 students in the game. Here is her working. Tina made a mistake in her working to find the total number of points scored. Describe the mistake that Tina made. We can see here the 0 multiplied by 1, Tina has written 1. So we need to write 0 multiplied by 1 is not 1, and that would be enough for 1 mark. In a shop, a TV has a normal price of £500. The shop has a sale. On Monday, the normal price of the TV is reduced by 1/10 to give the sale price. On Tuesday, the sale price of the TV is reduced by 20%. Chris wants to buy the TV. He has £400 to spend on the TV. Does Chris have enough money to buy the TV on Tuesday? You must show how you get your answer. Let's work out how much the TV costs on Monday. First, we need to work out 1/10 of £500. So we need to do 500 divided by 10, and we get £50. Now we have 1 mark. The price then is going to be 500 subtract £50, because it said the word reduced, and that gives us £450. Now we have 2 marks. Moving on to Tuesday. It says it's been reduced by 20%. To find 10% of 450, we need to do £450 divided by 10, and that gets us £45. 20% then is just double of 10%, so 2 multiplied by £45, and we have £90. Now we have our 3rd mark. The price on Tuesday will be £450 subtract £90, and that gets us £360. Now we have our 4th mark. To answer the question, does Chris have enough money? We will say he has enough money. Remember, we must always justify our answer. So we will say because £360 is less than £400. And now, because we've given a final sentence, we have our 5th mark. Work out an estimate for the following. It said the word estimate, so we must round the numbers. Instead of 790, I'm going to use 800. Instead of 289, I'm going to use 300. And instead of 49, I'm going to use 50. For rounding at least 2 of them, I have 1 mark. 800 multiplied by 300 is 240,000. So it's 240,000 over 50. Now I have a 2nd mark. To work this out, I'm actually going to double the numerator and the denominator. I have 480,000 divided by 100. For me, that's an easier calculation. I can cross out a 0 from the numerator and the denominator. I can do that once more. The answer is then 4,800, and now I have a 3rd mark. Expand x open bracket x subtract 4. Expand means get rid of the brackets, and it means x multiplied by this x and then x multiplied by the 4. We end up with x squared subtract 4x. And for 1 mark, you can just write that answer. Factorize 15y subtract 10. So we need to put this into brackets. I like to use the upside down bus stop method. A number or a letter that goes into both of them is 5. 15y divided by 5 is 3y. 10 divided by 5 is 2. 3y subtract 2 do not have any more common factors other than 1, so we stop there. And the answer is 3y subtract 2 inside the bracket and 5 on the outside. And for 1 mark, again, you can just write the answer. Solve the following. I always use the flowchart method, and one way is to take it as it is. So we have f, we subtract 5, and then we multiply by 7, and we get 28. To get our first mark, we need to write all the inverse operations. So we need to divide by 7 first, and then add 5. If we set it out like this, we would now have 1 mark. 28 divided by 7 is 4, add 5 and we get 9. For saying f equals 9, we would get our second mark. This is just one method. You could, if you want to, expand first. So you have 7, f subtract 5 equals 28. If we expand, we have 7f subtract 35 is equal to 28. And we try and solve this new version. So we have f, multiply by 7 first, then subtract 35, and we get 28. If we go backwards, we need to add 35 first, and then divide by 7. And if we set it out like this, clearly we would get our first mark. 28 add 35 is 63. 63 divided by 7 is 9. So the answer is still 9. So any clear method and then the correct answer would get us 2 marks. The first 5 terms of an arithmetic sequence are 1, 4, 7, 10 and 13. Write down an expression in terms of n for the nth term of this sequence. Arithmetic sequence means we always add the same number from term to term. And here we can see we are always adding on 3. That means the start of the nth term is 3n. And now we have 1 mark. To find the 0th term, we need to go backwards and do the inverse, so we need to subtract 3. 1 subtract 3 gives us -2. So for writing 3n subtract 2, we have 2 marks. Show that 2 1/3 multiplied by 3 3/4 is equal to 8 3/4. Because the question said show that, we must show all of our working out. First, we need to convert the mixed numbers into improper fractions. 2 1/3, we need to do the whole number multiplied by the denominator, add the numerator, and the denominator is the same. So we get 7/3. 3 3/4, the same method, the whole number multiplied by the denominator, add the numerator, and the denominator stays the same. That is 15/4. We now have 1 mark. Now we're going to carry out the calculation. So we have 7/3 multiplied by 15/4. I'm going to cancel down diagonally. 7 and 4 have no common factors other than 1. 3 and 15 have a common factor of 3. Divide both of them by 3, we get 1 over here and 5 over here. Now we can rewrite it as 7 multiplied by 5 all over 1 multiplied by 4. Now I have my second mark. 7 multiplied by 5 is 35. 1 multiplied by 4 is 4. We have an improper fraction. We need to work out how many 4s go into 35. So 35 divided by 4, that is 8. Remainder 3, so it will be 3/4. As we can see, our answer is the same as what they have at the top. So now we have 3 marks. The diagram shows 4 graphs. Each of the equations in the table is the equation of one of the graphs. Complete the table. Y equals negative x cubed and y equals x cubed are both cubic. The only 2 cubic graphs on here are graph B and graph C. If we focus on this point over here, a random positive x value cubed would give us a positive y value. That means that graph C must be y equals x cubed. And then by default, y equals negative x cubed must be graph B. Moving on to y equals x squared. That is a quadratic graph. If we have a positive x value and we square it, we get a positive y value. If we have a negative x value and we square it, we still get a positive y value. That means y equals x squared must be graph D. And now, by a process of elimination, y equals 1 over x must be graph A. This is also called a reciprocal graph. If we have 2 or 3 of them correct, we would get 1 mark. For having all of them correct, we would have 2 marks. The diagram shows 4 triangles. 2 of these triangles are congruent. Write down the letters of these 2 triangles. Congruent means exactly the same shape and size. For triangles, we can have angle, side, angle, where the side has to be between the 2 angles given, or we can have side, angle, side, where the angle has to be between the 2 sides given, or we can have side, 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 where all 3 sides must be given. In triangle A, we have a side and 2 angles, so we have ASA. In triangle B, we do not have the angle between 8 and 10, so we cannot guarantee that this is the same as any other triangle. If we look at triangle C, again, we do not have the angle between the 8 and the 10, so we cannot guarantee that it will be the same as any of the triangles. Triangle D, we have a missing angle, but we have enough information to work out that missing angle. We need to do 180, subtract 80, subtract 45. 180 subtract 80 is 100. 100 subtract 45 is 55. So this angle is 55. So now we can say we have the side and the 2 angles. So again, we have ASA. That means triangles A and D must be congruent because of ASA. And for writing A and D, we would get the 1 mark. Sean pays £10 for 24 chocolate bars. He sells all 24 chocolate bars for 50p each. Work out Sean's percentage profit. So we first need to work out how much money is coming in. We need to do 24 multiplied by 50p. I am going to convert this 50p into pounds, so that is 0.50. So now I'm going to do 24 multiplied by 0.50, and that is £12. Now we have 1 mark. Step 2, we need to work out the profit, which is also the difference. He is making £12, but he had to spend £10, so his profit is £2. And now we have our second mark. Step 3, remember the formula is difference over original multiplied by 100. The difference, in our case the profit, is £2. The original, so how much did Sean spend originally, is £10, and then multiplied by 100. I'm going to make this fraction something over 100, so I'm going to multiply by 10 and multiply by 10. I now have 20 over 100 multiplied by 100. So the answer is 20% for my third mark. ADC is a triangle. AED and ABC are straight lines. EB is parallel to DC. Angle EBC is equal to 148 degrees. Angle ADC is equal to 63 degrees. Work out the size of angle EAB. You must give a reason for each stage of your working. Angle EAB is this one over here. To start off, I'm going to work out this angle and call it 1. Angle 1 is equal to 63 degrees, and we must give a reason. So corresponding angles are equal. Next, I'm going to work out this one and call it 2. So 180 subtract 148. If you don't know what that is in your head, you can do column subtraction on the side. That is 32 degrees. Again, we must give a reason. So angles on a straight line add up to 180 degrees. For working out angle 1 as 63 or angle 2 as 32, we now have 1 mark. We can now work out this angle 3. Angle 3 is actually the angle they are looking for, EAB. To do that, we will do 180, subtract angle 1, so 63, and subtract 32. We now have a second mark. 63 at 32 is 95, so we need to do 180 subtract 95, and we get 85 degrees. Now we have our third mark. Again, we must give a reason. So angles in a triangle add up to 180 degrees. So far we have 3 marks. For the fourth mark, we have to have the reason to do with parallel lines, which is this one over here. So that's our fourth mark. And then for the fifth mark, we have to have both of these reasons over here. All of that altogether will get us 5 marks. The table shows information about the heights in centimetres of a group of Year 9 girls. This stem and leaf diagram shows information about the heights in centimetres of a group of 15 Year 9 boys. Compare the distribution of the heights of the girls with the distribution of the heights of the boys. To compare the distribution, we must compare the median and we must compare the range. We first need to work out the range for the girls. The biggest value, subtract the smallest value. The range for the girls is 20 centimetres. We must also work out the range for the boys. A stem and leaf diagram is already in order. The last value is the biggest and the first value is the smallest. Using the key, we can see that's 182 centimetres subtract 158 centimetres. The range for the boys is 24 centimetres. We must also work out the median for the boys. Median is the middle value of an ordered list. It's already in order, so we need to cross out from beginning and end. We keep doing that until we have a middle number. The median for the boys is 168 centimetres. For having any one of these 3 answers, we have 1 mark. Now we can compare. The boys have a bigger range. Use values to support your statement. And give a context. The boys have a bigger range. 24 centimeters is bigger than 20 centimeters. This means their heights are more varied. Now we have a second mark. The boys have a higher median. Again, give values. And again, give a context. Boys have a higher median. 168 centimeters is more than 165 centimeters. This means the boys are generally taller. That is our third mark. When you compare, you must back it up with numbers and you must give a context. The diagram shows a prism placed on a horizontal floor. The prism has a height of 3 meters. The volume of the prism is 18 cubic meters. The pressure on the floor due to the prism is 75 newtons per square meters. Work out the force exerted by the prism on the floor. First, we need to work out the area because we can see in the formula they have area and not volume. To do that, we need to work with the volume. So we have volume is equal to cross-sectional area multiplied by length. In this instance, the cross-section area is the area touching the floor. And in this instance, the length is actually the height. So we have 18 is equal to area multiplied by 3. So we need to divide both sides by 3. Our area ends up being 6 square meters. Now we have 1 mark. Step 2, we need to substitute into the formula given. Pressure is 75. The force is unknown. And the area is 6. Now we have a second mark. To work out the force, we need to multiply both sides by 6. So force is equal to 75 multiplied by 6. I'm going to do that over here. 5 multiplied by 6 is 30. 7 multiplied by 6 is 42. Add on the 3, it's 45. So the force is 450 newtons. And that is our third mark. Write these numbers in order of size. Start with the smallest number. To help us order, it would be better if every single number was in standard form. The first one is fine as it is. The second number, I need to divide the first part by 10 to the power of 1 and multiply the second part by 10 to the power of 1. I end up with 6.72 times 10 to the negative 3. Negative 4 add 1 is negative 3. The third number I need to divide by 10 squared, which means the 10 to the 4 needs to be multiplied by 10 squared. Now I have 6.72 times 10 to the power of 6. 4 add 2 is 6. Because the last number is such a small number, I can use the counting 0 method. 1, 2, 3, 4. That number becomes 6.72 times 10 to the negative 4. Now, to order the numbers, I just need to focus on the powers. The smallest power is the negative 4, so the smallest number is 0.000672. and then cross that out. The next smallest power is the negative 3, so that's 67.2 times 10 to the negative 4. The next smallest power is the 5, so that's 6.72 times 10 to the 5. And the last number is then 672 times 10 to the 4. If you have them all in the correct order, that is 2 marks. If one of the numbers is out of place, you would get 1 mark. Given that A over B is equal to 2 over 5 and B over C is equal to 3 over 4, find A to B to C. I am going to rewrite the first fraction as a ratio, so I get 2 to 5, and I don't have anything for C. Now I'm going to look at the second fraction and rewrite that one as a ratio as well, so that gets me 3 to 4, and I don't have anything for A. Now I have 1 mark. B is the only one that has a value for both. So now I need to think of a number that's in the 5 times tables and the 3 times tables. I can think of the number 15. To go from 5 to 15, we need to multiply by 3. So every single number in the first line needs to be multiplied by 3. That gets us 6. Now we have our second mark. 3 to 15, we need to multiply by 5. So everything in the second line needs to be multiplied by 5. And that gets us 20 for C. For having 6 to 15 to 20, we have our third mark. Make Q the subject of P equals 6Q add 7. I'm going to do this the way I solve equations using the flowchart method. So I have Q, I then multiply it by 6, then add 7, and that gets me P. To go backwards, I need to do the inverse, subtract 7, divide by 6, and that will get me to Q. This second line gets me 1 mark. Now I need to write this algebraically. So Q equals, we first need to do P subtract 7. Then everything is being divided by 6, so draw a fraction line, and the denominator is 6. And that is our second mark. Simplify m to the negative 2 all to the power of negative 3. In indices, when we have brackets, we need to multiply the powers. So we need to do negative 2 multiplied by negative 3. That gets us a positive 6. So our answer for 1 mark is m to the power of 6. And that is all we need to write for 1 mark. Thank you for watching. Have a lovely day.